Hello members, this is Greg Cantek, your 2022 president, and I am joined today with Lillian Mattingly. She is the chair of the Commercial Real Estate Committee, and I have it on great authority that we're the only association that actually has this type of committee that's formalized and has been formalized for many years, which is wonderful.
It's a really great resource for our area, for sure.
Absolutely.
And has been for a long time. When I think back of some of the other leaders that have come before me in the commercial committee and the impact that they've had on these communities, it's really exciting that we're able to keep the committee vibrant and strong.
Well, marvelous, because I don't think that a lot of, most of our members are residential heavy, residential realtors, but they don't realize that SMAR has an entire collective of commercial real estate agents that are handling all of these commercial transactions. So tell me, what do you see as trends in commercial specific to our area, either since COVID, going into the future, or what's happening now? What are you seeing?
Well, the market has been pretty robust, definitely not what the residential market has seen, but it's been little bit surprising to me how much leasing activity we've had over the last 2 years. Our shopping centers and the properties around, no vacancies, the industrial, no vacancies. Of course, office space is a little bit on the rocks, depending on where things are going, and it's still because people don't quite know what to do with it yet. Are they coming back to the office? So I think some of the office space and repurposing them and changing maybe but the market has been pretty good. The interest rates are still affordable. There's great programs out there like opportunity zones for federal programs, the SBA money to owner occupied for expansions, and even local private and public partnerships. I think Comcast has some kind of a program where they're supporting businesses to expand and grow. So I think the market is pretty well supported.
Interesting. So, International Monetary Fund puts out a report, and they really were concerned about commercial during the COVID period, and we've come, to really the other side of the pandemic, and there were winners and losers in the commercial over the pandemic. So, and I think they quoted North and Latin America. The hardest hit was the short-term loser, which is hotel industry, followed by office space, retail particularly, which is going to be sort of a long-term loser. And they've seen how the trends in those businesses move into e-commerce. But as we're entering things back in, there still is potential for a little bit of rockiness in commercial, specific to the office space, as businesses decide, do we use flex space? Are we needing less space? And that probably will be borne out with the smaller leases. Don't you think, over the trend, and see the renewal rates? Because there wasn't really a loss of lease income for a lot of offices during COVID at all.
I didn't really see that.
But we'll have to watch the trends in the next couple of years over these smaller business. And so where are you seeing retail in our area and some of the retail space? Do you see it coming back? Is there an opportunity to repurpose it and look greater into flexibility of commercial space?
Well, I think commercial by design is redesigned all the time. That's one of the beauties of the space, because what may be a great location for a department store could end up being a dental office.
Exactly.
So that's the thing that makes things challenging from our side, is that transition of, is somebody prepared for that? Are they ready to take on all that it takes? Sometimes I think that what we do is kind of the sausage analogy. Everybody likes the end result,
Right.
but some people really don't have the stomach for the process.
That's right.
So it's kind of a challenge, but when we get on the other side, it's really exciting.
And let's talk about the process, because one of the things that we as realtors learn is that there are specifics to commercial real estate that do not translate to residential and vice versa. And as a broker who has commercial agents, I see more trend in other brokerages where residential realtors are trying to enter into commercial when their clients say, oh, I'd like to buy a multifamily building, or I'd like to buy an office space, you know, these types of things. And there's a reason why commercial forms don't exist on the Maryland Realtors site, and that's because your transactions, much like European transactions, are handled a lot by attorneys, aren't they? The contracts, the leases, and other things. So they're tailoring things to it. So what would be your advice to the residential realtor who has a client with a commercial need? Should you direct them to a commercial to partner with that person so that they actually can learn along the way instead of delving their foot directly into the transaction?
Well, you know, we often have the flip side of it with a residential, and when I have an agent come to me and say, you know, I have a dear friend of mine that
Right.
wants to buy a house, and I said, if they're really a good friend of yours, then you would get an agent that would handle
Exactly.
that in the best way.
Exactly.
And it's just such a different business, and it is. You know, sometimes it gets frustrating in dealing with a residential agent that doesn't really know the commercial side of things, and it's hard because, you know, it's not your place to educate them.
Right.
And sometimes I have residential agents that come to talk to me, and I feel a little uncomfortable as far as it's like, you know, I support my agents, but I'm not, you know, I can't give advice to another broker's
Right.
agent. You
Right.
know, so I wouldn't do that. And so that gets to be a bit of a tricky side of it, you know, too. But it's, you know, I always think, how can you best serve the client?
That's right. And the best serving of the client is always to partner with someone who is an expert.
Right.
I mean, one, you're adhering to the code of ethics, that you're not going outside of your area of expertise, but because you are so unique, it is an opportunity to partner. Even as a member, if you are residential and you're wanting to go into the commercial arena, your broker can lead you to someone. And best to have that partnership with that referral to an agent inside or outside your brokerage, if you don't have the bandwidth within your brokerage, to still be able to maintain the client, but make sure they're served in a fiduciary responsibility.
Right, right.
All right. So there are other things that a lot of people are coming into commercial. You're seeing a lot of young people moving into commercial. What is the difference, you think, in this new crop of commercial specialty agents?
People looking to make money, I think.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, a lot of the transactional volume that we do is leasing, more so. And so that's usually an easier place for a new person to start. Because it's an opportunity to start to understand what kind of infrastructure specific businesses need when you look at where they need to be, and being able to do a needs analysis and understand, you know, what the client needs, even if they don't. And that's, you know, the zoning part of it, the build out part of it. You know, how much is it going to cost for you to open your doors?
Exactly.
And that's, you know, nobody wants to sign a lease without knowing that.
Right. the return on investment, which is why, I always rely on my commercial people, and I stay out of commercial because I don't want that much math in my life, frankly.
Whatever.
Yeah, exactly. But
You can't figure out a percentage?
I could, but I rely on my experts. How's
That's
that?
good.
Is
That's
that good?
good.
All right. So, the other thing is that in the nascent stage of your committee, SMAR is working towards trying to get you a commercial accreditation.
That's exciting.
It's very exciting. So, although this is going to take, months in its development, because you have to meet certain criteria through the National Association to do that, what would that mean for your committee and for the commercial agents that are working here at Southern Maryland?
Well, I think it certainly would open up the not only additional resources, but also credibility. And that's just a key part of what we do. One of the things that I say makes why I love the business so much is, the rule number one in real estate, land is unique.
Right.
And in my business, the business is unique. I don't care if you have 2 Chinese restaurants, a business reflects their owner. And it's going to be designed different. It's going to be a different. So figuring out those two, it's like every deal is unique. And you really have to keep your mind open to different possibilities and just knowing what resources are out there in order to help support them. Because, as I say to people too, we could give you a 50-page lease agreement and it's never going to include everything that life throws at you.
Very true. Very true. So going forward, what are you going to see as a trend, you think, in our area? Obviously, there's challenges that have been faced with commercial, particularly with some of the legislation that's coming down the pike, the removal of gas and from the state, which I don't understand how you'll retrofit commercial space for that. But are you seeing any other challenges? Obviously, we went through COVID. Everything was closed, kind of hard to get a permit, isn't it? So what other challenges have you been facing as an industry?
Well, I think that it is disturbing to think that we're in a pandemic and the government's closed.
Yeah.
So that has been very challenging. And as people are, Americans are so resourceful, they're going to find a way to make it work. And people
Right.
are trying to, they're out there digging. And it's like, you can't get a permit through or,
Right.
so the process of it just seems to get more and more complicated.
Yeah.
And meaning more and more money and more time.
Exactly.
And, those equate.
Different from the residential side, because we never lost a beat. Everything is, title companies were still able to do title searches, and appraisers still came out, and lenders still lent money. But it's much different when you're a builder or you're trying to develop something, or you need to do the research and the environmental studies that need to go through that, and you rely on the government to actually be open and allow you access to documents.
And it's a huge project. I mean, you buy a piece of property in order to build a building, and you're between all of the time that it takes for you to get the doors open. Who knows what your interest rate's going to be by that time when you're ready to make your construction loan fold over into permanent financing. I mean, like I say, it's hard to. We like to make sure that people are well informed as much as possible when you go into the deal so that you're prepared to see it through. But that's why it's such a tricky business, because there's always unknowns.
Exactly.
And the people that are risk adverse have a real hard time.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Because sometimes you just got to roll with it.
Exactly. So your committee is here to help the commercial members. For our residential members who are interested in commercial, their committee exists. Please reach out to Lillian and SMAR. And if you are interested, we are actively working on this accreditation. So,
And we also have a guest speaker at the beginning of every one of our meetings, and that is open to anybody if they would like to join in for that part of the program. And, we try to kind of move around the Southern Maryland area, looking at different economic development, talking to different mayors about what they're doing in their towns. So anybody is invited to participate in those.
and speaking of economic development, unique to your committee is that you have the economic development people from each county on your committee. They
Right.
are now attending, so you
And they
get
give
real
us
time.
reports every month as
Absolutely.
far as what's going on in their backyard. So it's good to understand, because that's the other part of the whole government picture, is that it's always a moving target. Just like when you talk about retrofitting for gas, it's like, yeah, well, then you're retrofitting because the fire marshal has new codes,
Right.
or the electrical codes that, started in 2014 are now being enforced now, so
Right.
everything changes.
Well, the great thing about our industry is that we're a collective of specialties, and commercial and residential, they exist hand in hand, each with our own specialties, and we can help each other out and learn from each other. I'm so thankful that you joined us today. Thank you, all our commercial members and those who support those commercial members. And we look forward to seeing more about the accreditation going forward.
Me too.
All right.
Thanks,
so
Greg.
much. This is news you can use.